I want to start with a little story, which I've told to a couple of my classes. So I have a book that I have finished that's with publishers right now. And one of the readers of the book from one of the publishers called me and was going through the book, giving me notes. It was very positive at first. It was positive. Overall, it was positive. But one of the things that came up that surprised me and yet didn't was this person's reaction to this philosophy. And I heard her, and she said, I used to go to a religious science church, and it just finally just annoyed me because everybody thought they could have whatever they want and create whatever life they wanted. And she goes, and it just didn't play out that way. She goes, I believe it in concept, but it didn't play out for me in my life. So I left, and I'm now a Buddhist. I said, how's that working for you? She said, great, really great. She goes, I'm not expecting great things. I know what comes is going to be good. And I'm detached from my wanting everything. I was like, all right. I said, that sounds great. She said, so your book, in order for it to be more embracive, to embrace all types of people, because it's it's called The 5 Questions. She said, how can you couch this so that it doesn't turn people off who think that, well, why are you telling me I can have everything when I live in a poverty-stricken country that has no opportunities for me? That's hard for me to she says, even in our own country. So she's telling me all of this, and I'm listening, and I said, could you point out specific paragraphs? Show me where that is. She said, go to page, I forget, I didn't write it down. Go to page and take a look at what you wrote in bold. So I go to that page, and there's this big all caps bold, you can have whatever you want. And I said, okay. She said, how would you rewrite that? And I said, I wouldn't. And she says, but how would you let me read that where I'm not going to feel like, really? I can have whatever I want? I'm closing this book. It's not going to help me. I said, well, but I got her. I finally got her, and I went, I understand what you're saying. You want more exposition. You want me, I've never heard a publisher tell you to write more. I said, you want me to explain why. And she said, yeah, if you can make me understand that. And she said, and what I really want to understand is that while I can have everything I want, it's very possible that things I don't want are going to pop up. She said, you don't leave room for that in this book. And I said, the book talks about losing my 19-year-old daughter and how I spent the time with the 5 questions to work myself through it. She goes, no, that's great. She goes, when you get to the end and the last whole section on your daughter, I'm home, I got it, I loved it, I cried through the whole thing, it was great. She said, but I may not get there if you don't ease up on telling me I can have everything. At one point I was like, who am I talking to? But I got it. I really got it. I started going, wait, let me look at what I really believe here. Do I believe I can have anything I want? Do I believe I can have the life I want? And my answer is still yes. Do I believe that things can come along that I don't want? The answer to that is also yes. And I don't think we talk about that enough. I don't think we talk about where many of us live enough. We're way too interested in telling us what it can be. But what about what it is right now? I still am in grief. I deal with grief every day. I dealt with it yesterday in an almost immobilizing way when I brought something up about Nora, and it stopped me. Does that mean in that moment I'm not understanding this teaching? No, not at all. In fact, it means in that moment I know how to use this teaching to work through whatever I was feeling and come out the other side. That's what we teach. Not that you can have everything you want and nothing bad is ever going to happen to you again. You will never create anything horrible in your life. And in fact, the entire world is going to find peace and you're going to live in Shangri-La. From now through eternity, you'll never die. And your body will just get prettier and prettier. You'll never really die. And then someday, you'll go to heaven. I don't believe that. But I do believe I was attracted to this teaching because it gave me tools. It gave me tools on how to live my life in a more positive way. And so I started looking, and then she found the other many paragraphs where I use all caps. She also said you might want to think about using all caps so often. I was like, but then how do they know I'm excited? She goes, we know you're excited. So I went through and I looked at the paragraphs, and I have not rewritten them yet. I read them and I get it, but I really learned a big lesson. And I started thinking to myself, do people here think that what we're saying is you can have everything you want and there'll be no distractions? You can use your mind and create everything exactly the way you want it? Well, some people don't. Joyce does not. But I think some people do. And that's why they come in and they leave. Because it didn't work. They're treating. They think they're treating, and nothing changes. Or maybe they can find a few parking spaces here and there. But we're the religion of finding a good parking space. But what about fighting ovarian cancer, which has come up recently? Obviously not in me, but in someone else. Yeah, how do you look at that and say, and what do we say about that? Well, Louise Hay, speaking to Raymond Charles Barker just said, you give this no power whatsoever. You give this none of your energy. You give it your love, and that's it. And he worked with her and worked with her and worked with her. And at the end, she went to the doctor, and they said they must have misdiagnosed her because there was nothing there. So does that work? Yes, that does work. But I want to point something out. She still had to deal with the ovarian cancer. She had to deal with the diagnosis. She then had to get to work with her mind and her heart. Does that mean, as the doctor said, it must have been a misdiagnosis? I don't believe that. I believe that the mind can work through whatever comes up. Now, some of you will say, yeah, but did she create that? Isn't that what we teach? That we create whatever shows up? Well, only to the degree that you are part of this enormous oneness, and the enormous oneness creates everything. Mind creates everything. Did your individual mind create Russia invading Ukraine? No. But does your mind, as part of the collective that is going on in this world right now, are you a part of that? Yes. That's what we teach. I'm not responsible for that. I'm responsible, are you ready? For my reaction to that. That's what you're responsible for. That's what I'm responsible for. If you would give me that first quote, Gilmore. Oh, first let's talk about the title of my talk, apparently. Okay, hold on. Here we are, yes. Well, that is the title of my talk. I put it in the wrong place. My fault, Gilmore. Give me the next slide. Here we go. Practically the whole human race is hypnotized because it thinks what somebody else told it to think. Ernest Holmes. So I want you to just think about that for a moment. I love that he says practically. Practically, the whole human race is hypnotized because it thinks what somebody else told it to think. That also goes for you can change your life. Being hypnotized by this idea, I can change my life, change my thinking, change my life. Anybody ever heard of that? Yeah. It's not true. To be really honest, that's important. It is not true. Change your thinking, change your life is not correct. What's correct is change your beliefs, and it will affect the way you think. And then when you think based on the belief you've created, now your life will change. That is a huge, huge difference in Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. And I think we've become hypnotized by that idea. Change my thinking, change my life. So I walk around thinking, I am happy, I am happy, I am happy. And then inside it's going, no, you're not, no, you're not, no, you're not. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that constant merging of the I am, I'm not, I am, I'm not, my mother, my daughter, my mother, my daughter. What movie is that? Chinatown, thank you. Just checking to make sure you're paying attention. How do we deal with that? Well, we have to understand both are correct. Both are correct. I am happy, but I'm not happy. Because there's a part of me that is perfect, that is happy, but I'm not experiencing that right now. So how do I deal with my mind so that I can now experience what I innately am? That's the journey we're on, constantly. And we are being hypnotized to such a degree that we're not using our minds appropriately or powerfully enough. Because we're hypnotized by these cliches that we live, and then we don't do the work. And frankly, you saw those certificates we just gave out. Those people are doing the work to really understand how does their mind work. And if so, if you know how your mind works, then you can use it to your best effect. So, as it said earlier, the title of my talk is What Goes Up. So I'm going to look at a couple of the lyrics that Francesca sang. She's saying, I'm through accepting limits because someone says they're so. How many of you are still accepting what other people are telling you about yourself, about the world, about your possibilities? How much that you hold on to in your beliefs are still beliefs that are coming from someone else, something else. And sometimes what you're believing is coming from experience. How many of you would think that a lot of what you believe comes from the experience you've had throughout your lifetime? Yes. So that's true. And you know what? Don't believe it. Because what you are believing is the demonstration of a mind that thought the way it thought then. It's not the truth. They're just relative facts. Even all the experience that you have had in your life, it's just facts. I can stand separate from all of that and be in the wholeness and say, right where I am, God is. It doesn't say, right where I am, God is the expression of everything I've learned up to this point. No, not. Right where I am, God is, and God feels everything I've ever thought. No, it's not that. It's right where I am, God is. Everything's open. Everything's possible. That's what Ernest Holmes is talking about when he talks about that idea of being hypnotized, even by ourselves, by our own past. So I'm through accepting limits because someone says they're so. Some things I cannot change, but till I try, I'll never know. I'd sooner buy Defying Gravity. We teach love and law. Love, who you are, spirit, infinite, and law. We mostly teach the law of cause and effect. But we also teach the law of gravity. Gravity makes sense, doesn't it? Anybody here are fearful in any moment they're going to float up to the ceiling? If you do, I want to know what you took. So we buy gravity. So the song Defying Gravity is, I think I can defy what I've been told cannot be defied. And certainly I'm that type of person. Tell me I can't, I will. Anybody else? Who else do I have here that are renegades? Yeah, okay. So do you realize every time a plane takes off, it defies gravity? Why? Why does it defy gravity? Because it shouldn't be able to go up and just stay up. It should come down. Because the title of my talk is, What Goes Up? Let's try that again, really big. What goes up? Must come down. Really? Not really. It doesn't have to come down. We bought that though. Now, why did the airplane defy gravity? It sounds like three ducks walk into a bar. Why does the airplane defy gravity? Because it understands the laws of gravity, uses the laws of gravity to be able to stay up and then come down. So when we talk about, people come in and they're like, well, okay, if we can create anything we want, I'd like to move that mountain out of the way because I'd like to see what's behind it. I'm like, have at it. Go ahead, show me how that works. No, because there is a law in place that mountain is there. That's real. It's really there. You cannot move it with your mind. You could possibly move yourself through it with your mind, or climb it, for God's sake, and see what's on the other side, because then you'd have to do the work, wouldn't you? So that's not the science. That's not the science of mind, that you can do these bizarre things. It's the science of understanding how the universe works, understanding the laws and living from the laws, and being able to literally take my life and move it anywhere I want as I use these laws correctly. Does everybody get that? So the question then becomes, what are those laws? So go to the next slide. Life is not just something to be endured. It is to be lived in joy, in the fullness, without limit. Now that may seem to you like there's nothing in your life. You shouldn't have anything in your life that you have to endure. And while that is true, what I'm really starting to understand as a science of mind teacher is that we must meet ourselves in reality where we are. We must meet ourselves. Dr. Walker used to say, my mentor, he used to say, you don't understand the science of mind until you can understand linoleum. And I remember linoleum, but he'd like to say linoleum. Remember that? You know that, Eric. And we'd always, when it first came up, we'd be like, he's lost it. He's been talking a long time. Maybe he's just, no, but he got it. He said, no, because linoleum is this stuff that's real. It's just kind of cheap. And you throw it on the floor, and then you dance all over it. And you walk on it, you dance on it, and it withholds itself. He said, this teaching needs to be like linoleum. It's simple, it's not complex, it's right there on the floor, and I can jump all over it, and it still holds me up. That's what the science of mind needs to be like. It can't be some airy-fairy thing. It's like, God is all there is. God is all there is. But your house is falling down. God is all there is. God, go fix your house. I always talk about Rose, the woman we rented that house from in the mountains. It was the Hollywood Hills. Seemed like mountains from the East Coast. And we had the 94 earthquake, and our house fell down. I think I've told, how many have heard this story? Good. Most haven't. Good luck. The house fell down. I mean, fell down. Kevin and I, we just had an argument, a discussion, about how he wanted to move back to New York. And I was like, I'm staying in LA. I found my teacher. I want to live in LA. And so we went to bed unresolved. And then the earthquake hit, which I've always blamed him for. The earthquake hit. And when the earthquake hit, our bed literally popped up and down. It was like The Exorcist showed up at our house. And then everything fell, glass all over the floor. We're totally naked. And just envision this. And we're trying to make our way out the door, and there's glass everywhere. And then, remember, that wall just crumbled so we could see our neighbor's house. And then our friend Wendy comes up the hill with these she was totally ready for earthquake. She's like, you okay? You okay? And she's fully dressed with one of those lights on her helmet. And we're fine. We're having a difficult time getting back into the house. But then the aftershocks, remember the aftershocks? They were almost worse. It was like, I did turn to Kevin and say, I can move back to New York now. And we did. We moved back to New York. Why was I telling you this story? Linoleum, yes. So it's not that things aren't going to happen. It's that you know what to do when they do happen. That's what this teaching is all about. So life is not something to be endured. No, don't, plant a table and sit at it while everything's going on. Fix the house. So our friend, our landlady, Rose, we said to her, you got to put a wall back up. We can't live in this house without a wall. And she was like, God will provide. And she was a religious scientist, which is how we got the apartment. And I was like, okay, I'm on board with God will provide. A week later, Rose, where's God? Because we need the wall fixed. And she's like, God will provide. So that went on for 3 weeks maybe? And then we were like, Rose, here's how this is going to go down. We're not paying rent anymore. We're going to fix the wall. We'll take the money out of the rent. And once that's done, we'll start paying rent. And when she said, see, God provided. Whoa! That is not how this science works. Just to be clear. Oh, I know, it did work for her. I get it. Yes. But you know what? Here's the thing, and I mean no disrespect to Rose. While it did work for her, she's lost all of her properties because she's constantly believed that something else is going to take over and fix things. I'm here to tell you today, as inspiring as this can be, everything in your life that needs attention needs your attention. Not God's attention, because let's face it, you are God. Everything is God. So sorry, you can't say God will provide anymore unless you're talking to yourself in a mirror. God will provide. Then get off of your seat and provide. That's what we're here to do. That's what this teaching is all about. I said a couple weeks ago that it's a tough religion to sell because it teaches personal responsibility. And most people would rather have God to blame and to fix and to hope. But not you, right? Some of you are like, I don't know, I'm going to try the Hope Lutheran. It's right up here. Yeah. So Ernest Holmes said there is a power for good in the universe and you can use it. There is a power for good in the universe and you can use it. One more time. There is a power for good in the universe and you can use it. Because you are it. That's why you can use it. Because you are the power for good in the universe. But that doesn't mean sometimes some stuff that may seem bad isn't going to come along. I woke up Friday morning to some really bad stuff in the world. You know, does that mean that my life has to be changed dramatically because this is going on? No, but it means I better use my mind to be part of the solution. Absolutely be part of the solution, and whatever that means. I am here to say I am open to whatever is necessary. And we all need to be, to do our job in keeping this world safe. So if you would give me the next slide, please. The Buddha says, our life is the creation of our mind. Yes, it is. Individually. Two people can stand in the same room and have two completely different experiences of life. Everyone's listening to the same thing I'm saying. I'm only saying it one way, and yet there will be multiple understandings of what I'm saying today based on your already established premises of life. That's how it works. So our life is the creation of our mind. Buddha is not saying your life, you get to create the life you want and live free. That's not what Buddha is saying. He says your life is the creation of your mind. Regardless of what is going on, it's your job to create the life you desire within everything going on. How much better will life be if we stop waiting for it to be better? That equation doesn't work. It's not that I know my life's going to get better. I happen to know that in a very deep way that my life will continue to unfold perfectly. Better? Why should it be better? Why can't it be great right now, no matter what? No matter what is going on. And the next quote is by Louise Hay. Every thought we think is creating our future. You know, so many people spend so much time thinking into the future, trying to figure out what's their future going to be. And yet, it's going to be whatever you're thinking right now. That's what's coming next, whatever that is. And then, Marianne Williamson, pulling out all the stops today, folks. You must learn a new way to think before you can master a new way to be. Okay? Now I'd like to add to my friend Mary Ann, you must learn a new way to believe in order to learn a new way to think, in order to master a new way to be. So it's all about you going back in there and finding out, what do I believe and why? The why is important too. Do I believe this because this is what I was brought up to believe? I don't think I have many beliefs left from my youth and from my family and from my childhood. I don't think, but I do the work constantly. If something pops up and I'm like, why am I thinking that? But that's our work, to find out, what do I believe? Why do I, and you know what, just back it up. If you're thinking something negative or something's doesn't seem possible for you, or you seem something challenging, our job is to go back. Why am I thinking that? What about me makes me think that? What belief do I hold? And the next quote, Aristotle. I thought I'd go back to the end. At the end, go back to the beginning. It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. I don't know why that brings up tears for me right now, but it is so important to me, this particular concept. We don't have to be afraid to listen. We don't have to be afraid to see what's going on in the world. The only fear that shows its head is when we accept it and we believe it. We see what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, and we somehow believe there's danger. What I see when I look over there, and even when I see the casualties and the destruction, I see freedom fighting for its life. I see love fighting to be the central feature here. And sometimes that's ugly, and sometimes that's difficult to watch. The first thing I thought of when I woke up Friday morning was, some father's going to lose his daughter, and I know what that feels like. And I instantly knew the truth for that father and that mother and that son and that everybody involved. But my job is not to accept it, but to see it, understand it. Now, what's the truth? That's the teaching we're in, folks. That's the work we're in. The work of staying principled, on principle, in principle, as principle. That's our job. So, defying gravity, yeah. We're in the midst, this is our last Sunday for adventure. You know what the adventure of a lifetime is? Finding out who you are. That's really the adventure of a lifetime. I mean, we live in a world now where you can be born a boy, but end up a woman because you know who you are. You can be born a girl and end up a man because you know who you are. Because it's not about body parts. It is about consciousness and truth and authenticity. I think we live in an amazingly fabulous time. It can feel challenging to people. You know, I always tell the story about getting people's pronouns wrong these days, which can be frustrating, can be embarrassing sometimes. Because I'll say he and the person will say it's she. I'm like, oh, I knew that, it's she. And then when they say they, I get completely verklempt. Because it just doesn't seem to come out of my mouth. But people know I'm well-intentioned. And that's really what matters most. At least that's what I tell my son when he says, yeah, work harder. And it's true, I have to. So, adventure of a lifetime. So our job, believe it or not, is to think new thoughts. And that's actually who we are, isn't it? New thought. Have you had a new thought this week? I mean, it's a serious question. Have you had a new thought this week? So, what goes up? No, it doesn't even have to stay up. It might fall down, or it might stay up. All I know is it's all going up. Unlimited potential. Up. What goes up is your consciousness. And it can stay there. It can drop down. It can do so many different things. Your job is to pay attention. Where is my mind? Is it up Is it down? Is it hovering? How many of you have hovering minds? Kind of hovers the idea for a while until you're sure it's yours. Yeah. So the last thing, the thing I leave you with is this idea of adventure. We are on the most amazing adventure, everyone, and it's an adventure of consciousness. It is time for us to leave our childhood thoughts behind. Keep the childhood wonder, but let go of the beliefs. Let go of everything that you think brought you here, and think new thoughts, new, exciting, passionate thoughts that are just yours. How do you find your thoughts? Just your thoughts? Not thoughts that have been brought to you by ABC, brought to you by the news and everybody else in the world. No, your own thoughts. You gotta get quiet and listen to you, what's coming up within. Because frankly, you know more than anyone on the planet about you. And at the end of the day, that's what we teach, self-reliance. As Emerson said, for you to rely on the self that is your mind, knowing that what you need is right here. Namaste.